So let me tell you guys, under this particular combo offer, we are providing a training on Palo Alto, Firewall, and F5 LTM, and the cost for this is 10,000. And this particular batch we will start from 12th of June. It's a weekends batch, and the Palo Alto class timing is 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. IST. These are the things which we cover actually. So these sessions, so for Palo Alto we are having around 13 to 15 classes, which is also like 26 plus hours of course. For F5 also there are 13 to 15 classes, each class of 2 hours. We will also give you the lifetime interview support. If you are having any interview, you can call us, we will guide you and everything. We will also share you the lab workbook. We will also provide you the recorded videos for each session, and this access you will get for lifetime. We will also help you in the lab setup in your system. For that, we will do a one-to-one session, and also in that particular class, we will explain you how we can do the lab setup. We will share you all the necessary softwares which you need. It's a like weekends batch only, and generally we will also help you with the practical issues discussion, because we are also working in an MNCs, and we and daily basis we are handling these kind of issues. So basically we are having very good experience on that. There is a like mock interview with every student is also available. So these are the things which we also basically provide, guys. So now let me just first tell you what are the course content for Palo Alto Firewall. So the thing is, these are the course content. So first, what we will discuss with you platform and architecture, where we'll tell you what kind of hardware model we are having, what kind of virtual appliance we are having for Palo Alto, how Palo Alto have started. All these things we will cover. In architecture, we will explain you what is SP3, how basically Palo Alto use this SP3 terminology when they want to pitch that particular solution in front of customer. How basically this his Palo Alto architecture is different from the other firewall architecture. So we will discuss everything with regards to your SP3 architecture. We will also explain the flow logic, which includes the packet flow, like how when Palo Alto receives a packet, how it will basically handle it. What are the different checks it will basically perform? What are the different engines is there where it will send that packet for different purpose, like how app id engine works, how url filtering works, how routing engine works, how net happens, how security policy happens. Everything we will basically cover into your flow logic. After that, basically we will go into your initial configuration. What are the things which you need to configure? Let's suppose you got a physical box. Now what you want to start configuring this box. So we will tell you how you can basically connect your console port in your system, and how you can start the configuring the management ports and other stuff. What are the default setting, like what are the default IP address you will receive in this particular box? What are the default username and password? All these things basically we will explain to your initial configuration. How you can configure the domain name, how you can configure the host name, how you can configure the DNS details. All these basically things we will see into your initial configuration. After that, I will tell you how you can do the config management. In configuration management means if you have configured this firewall, how you can take the backup of that config, how you can create a snapshot. All these things basically we will cover over there. After that, we will go into the licensing and software updates. So like what kind of license you need into your Palo Alto firewall. If let's suppose you required a URL filtering feature, or you required a wildfire feature, in that case you need to purchase a license. If you need a like antivirus, anti spyware and vulnerability protection feature, in that case you need a threat prevention license. So all these licensing part we will basically cover in details. And after that, we will also tell you how you can basically do the upgrade of this particular Palo Alto firewall, how you can install different kind of updates for application updates, for URL filtering database updates, wildfire database updates, all these updates, how you can schedule all these things basically I will cover into your license and software updates part. After that, when we will basically cover these points, after it I'll go for your account administrator. In account administration, basically I will tell you how you can basically create for L1 engineers, for L2 engineers, for L3 engineers, how you can give the role with access to these peoples. So let's suppose there is a L1 engineer. For that engineer, maybe we will give the read-only access. Let's suppose there is a one contractor we have hired, and let's suppose that contractor we have hired for the VPN purpose. He only needs to manage your VPN system. In that case, how we can basically give the access to this person, so he can only able to access the VPN related system. All these things I will cover into your account administration. Later on, we will also see how I can integrate this Palo Alto firewall with the Radius server, because nowadays, if I'll talk about the few authentication devices or NAC devices like Cisco Wise, we are having Aruba ClearPass, how we can integrate all these devices, because all these devices supports Radius. They need a Radius. So I will tell you how you can create these profiles for managing these, for doing this account administrations. Later on, I will also explain you what are the different kind of admin roles we are having. And after that, I'll just move towards your interface configuration. In interface configuration, I will cover how you can configure the IP address on an interface, how you can configure the MTU, how you can just change these interface related values. We will cover everything on that. Then we will also discuss your security zones, how you can create the zones, how you can associate these zones with the interface. All these things we will basically see. Later on, I will also, we are having a separate labs for layer 2 deployment. What are the benefits? What are the use case of layer 2 deployment? Then we will discuss layer 3 deployment. How generally I have seen in 98% cases, people go for the layer 3 deployment only. But there are the special requirement. Let's suppose you are putting one three tier kind of application, and you want to host that application. In that case, you can go for the layer 2 deployment as well. Let's suppose you are running some kind of legacy network and you need a firewall functionality or some next generation firewall functionality. In that case, you can go for the virtual wire deployment. And we will also do the tap mode deployment. So all these deployment we will basically cover with your labs, guys. After that, I will also show you how you can create a sub interfaces on this firewall. What are the DSCP options we are having, how you can configure the DSCP server thing into your Palo Alto firewall, how you can make this firewall as a DSCP client, how you can basically configure this Palo Alto firewall for as a like DSCP relay agent. All these three things we will see practically, guys. Later on, I'll just move towards your virtual routers, where I will tell you what is virtual routers, how you can configure different kind of routing protocols like EI, like OSPF, BGP, static routing, RIP, how you can configure these routing protocols by using these virtual routers. I will also tell you what are the multi VR setup, where I will create a two virtual routers like VR1 and VR2. How we can configure, how we can just provide the interconnectivity between these VRs. What are the use cases? I will basically explain you all these things, guys. And in when we will discuss these virtual routers, I will also cover here like your path monitoring, how you can basically configure the path monitoring. All these things basically I will cover. I will also discuss this ECMP, how you can configure equal cost multipathing. I will also discuss how to configure your policy based forwarding. What are the use case for that? All these things we will basically see. Later on, I'll just move towards your security policy and net policies, where we will see different types of net rules, like how you can configure the dynamic net, how you can configure the port address translation, how you can configure static net, how you can configure destination net, what are the difference, how you can configure the twice net. All these things basically we will do practically. In security policies, I will cover everything, like what is intra zone rules, what is the intra zone rule, what is the universal rules, how you can basically configure these rules, what are the different kind of actions. All these things basically we will see here. When we complete your security policy and net policy, after that I'll just move towards your, so we towards your application identification. In app ID, basically, I will tell you how Palo Alto have basically do the application identification. What are the different methods it will use for identifying the application. All these things basically we will cover. And also I want to tell you one thing, guys. Palo Alto is the first firewall who basically come with this app ID feature. Okay. What kind of applications we are having in this app ID? I will tell you how you can allow the Facebook traffic. But if you want to block the chatting on Facebook, how you can do that? How you can write the application override policies. So let's suppose you are having some internal application and you don't want to send this particular internal application data through this app ID engine. How you can bypass that? We will see this thing as well. Let's suppose there is a new application and Palo Alto is not having any signature database for that application. In that case, I will tell you how you can create your custom signature. I'll tell you the ways how you can do that. So all these things basically we will see into your app ID. In app ID, I will also tell you how you can block the risky application, how you can allow them. All these things basically we will see. What are the default actions we are having into this app ID? I will also tell you what is application grow, what is filters, all these things we will see. And after that, I'll just move towards your content identification, or we can say content ID overview. In content ID overview, basically, I will try to cover all your layer 7 features like antivirus, how you can write the antivirus protection profile. What kind of signature database we are having for antivirus protection profile. Let's suppose someone has just sent one email to you. And let's suppose this email having some kind of malicious code. How your Palo Alto basically detect this thing? We will see into your antivirus profile. Let's suppose there is a one system which is having some kind of anti-spyware install on it. And now that anti-spyware, if he's trying to send that data towards the outside, how your anti-spyware profile basically works and basically protect that system. In during this anti-spyware session, I will also cover your DNS sinkhole. How you can write the DNS sinkhole and everything, guys. For some kind of malicious DNS request, how your Palo Alto deal with these requests. After I'll just go for your vulnerability protection. So let's suppose you are having some kind of Linux server, and this is a like pretty old Linux server. And there's a one hacker, if he's trying to just exploit this system, this Linux server by using any kind of vulnerability. Let's suppose he's trying to launch one kind of brute force attack. How your firewall basically protect from these kind of vulnerability exploitation? We will see all these things, guys. And because we have a licensed firewall, so all these particular features will work as per our configuration, guys. After that, we will go for your URL filtering. In URL filtering, I'll tell you how you can basically block the traffic on the basis of URLs. Let's suppose you want to block all the social networking site, which includes your Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and etc. So how you can block these websites? How you can allow? Let's suppose you want to allow the Facebook only. How you can do the whitelisting of these URLs? All these things basically we will see in practical, guys. I will also explain you the external dynamic list, because in my lab I do have one Linux server. On that Linux server, I will just create a web server. And now my firewall basically fetch the URLs from this web server, and I will create here two category, one category which is whitelist and one category which is blacklist. So black, if someone is trying to access a URL which belongs from your blacklist, in that case my firewall block that traffic. What are the different actions we are having into your URL filtering? All these actions we will cover, and I will also try to cover here some practical regarding your user ID. I have a active directory configuration in my system. So let's suppose if HR people is trying to access the job posting site, we will allow the traffic. But if they are trying to access social networking site, we will block it. Let's suppose there is a person who is from marketing or maybe sales team. If he is trying to access any job posting site, we will block his traffic. But if he is trying to access the social networking site, we will allow it. These kind of practicals we will also see into your URL filtering category. And after that, I will also explain you your file policy, because generally you have seen we are having some files which is like Visio files. Visio file generally used for creating your HLD, LLD, all these kind of network diagrams we will create by using Visio. We do have a some office Microsoft Office files as well, like Microsoft Doc, some Word documents, some PDF file is there. There is a some downloaded file as well, like exe file. Now how we can control like uploading of these particular files, how we can block the downloading of these particular files, all these things we will basically see into your file blocking policy. I will also explain you the wildfire, how wildfire operation happens, how Palo Alto perform this wildfire sandboxing into the wildfire cloud. All these things also we will cover, and I'll tell you the wildfire operations and everything, guys. So because generally wildfire protect us from the real time malware attacks and some kind of real time phishing attacks, guys. After that, we will also cover your decryption, because nowadays if you have seen, if I'll take an example of like torrent or any malicious domain, nowadays everyone is hosting their website over HTTPS. So if someone have hosted their website over HTTPS, which means if some users trying to establish a connection with that web server or that website, which means they are just creating one SSL tunnel. Now whatever data they are exchanging through this SSL tunnel is in encrypted form. So now if I want to see what are the data they are exchanging through this SSL tunnel, in that case I need to configure the decryption policy in my firewall. So my firewall do the man in the middle attack. He will hijack the session, and he will basically able to see everything. What are the things we need for configuring this decryption, how we can do the certificate management, all these things basically we will see is in this particular point of time. I will also tell you what is outbound SSL decryption, what is inbound SSL decryption, how to configure it. We will see all these things practically, guys. Because we do have a few servers. I'm having like few Linux server in my DMZ zone, and I will use these servers, guys, for configuring these kind of things. Then we will go for the user ID. In this user ID, we will see the AD integration, how we can integrate the Active Directory, how we can integrate the Radius server as well. We will see all these two things here. And after that, how we can configure the mapping of these users with the IP address, how this user to IP mapping works actually. We can how to configure one user ID isn't into any of the member server. So my this particular user agent will sends the details to my Palo Alto file regarding the users and what is the IP address he's using. All these things we will see. We will also use here Palo Alto inbuilt user ID client, or we can say user ID agent, who can also basically shares the information, guys. And this user ID agent, they will basically just get the information from your Active Directory and just try to update regarding that info to my Palo Alto firewall. And after that, when we complete your user ID isn't, and after it, I'll just go for your IPsec site to site VPN. And this is the Also, this is also my favorite topic. In IPsec side to side VPN, we will see how we can configure the VPN between your Palo Alto firewall and Palo Alto firewall, between your Palo Alto firewall and between your Cisco ASA, between your Palo Alto firewall and AWS cloud. These three practicals we will cover, and also I will tell you the exchange process. What are the like phase one exchange, what are the phase two exchange, like how main mode works, how aggressive mode works, what are the difference between these modes. I will explain you everything, and also I will provide you one written notepad file for this IPsec side to side VPN exchange, which that particular notepad file you can use for the interview purpose, because it is having all these information, guys. I will also tell you different kind of use cases of VPNs. If you go through with this use case, how you can basically configure that VPN. So I will try to cover all these particular points, guys. And I also tell you how you can run the debugging of these side to side VPN by using Palo Alto, by using Cisco ASA, and how you can understand these logs. All these things we will basically see. After it, I will also explain you Palo Alto Global Protect solution, which is a remote access VPN solution from Palo Alto. In this, first I will tell you the SSL handshake, how SSL works, what are the different protocols is there in SSL handshake. All these theoretical part we will cover, and after that we will do the practical thing into your Global Protect VPN, and we will configure this Global Protect agent into your system, into my mobile, and we will try to establish the connection and try to access the resources which is behind this particular firewall. After that, basically I will also explain you guys how you can do the management and reporting thing, how you can basically schedule the reports if you want, how you can basically get this data from your ACC tab of your Palo Alto file. All these things basically we will see. I will also tell you how you can configure the syslog server, and I'll do have a syslog server in my system. So we will see how my Palo Alto firewall sending these logs to syslog server. What are the fields? How you can understand all these fields. I will also install one NetFlow server in my system, and I will configure this NetFlow profile in my Palo Alto. So now my Palo Alto firewall send this NetFlow data towards this server, and we will get to know what are the top application, what are the top dockers. All this information we will see into this NetFlow analyzer, guys. What are the different types of logs we are having. I will also go through with the dashboard, how you can customize your dashboard, how you can do the basic logging, how you can configure these things, basic reporting, how you can generate these, and also we will see the panorama part. In this I will tell you what is panorama, what are the benefits you can basically achieve by using the panorama, how we can integrate. We will also see the integration of Palo Alto with the panorama, what are the device group, what are the template stack, how you can manage all these things. I will cover all these particular points when we will discuss your panorama part, guys. And later on, my favorite, one more my favorite topic, which is active passive high availability and active high availability. We will see these things practically, guys. I will tell you, I will again in this active passive high availability, I will again show you how you can configure this path monitoring, link monitoring, how you can configure this ha1 link, ha1 backup link, ha2 link, ha2 backup link. What are the use case of ha3 link if we are dealing with your active high availability? What are the use case, what is session owner, what is session setup? All these things we will basically see, how you can configure the net rules, how you can configure the security rules, how you can configure the routing interface configuration. We will see from scratch into your ha, because HA is the most important thing. And if you are going for any kind of delivery work in Palo Alto, in that case you come across these kind of situation, because in production environment always you will see firewalls are in HA pair. So you need to know everything regarding this HA. And later on when we will complete your HA part, and after that I'll just move towards your packet capture, how you can capture the packet in your Palo Alto by using the graphical user interface, and also by using the CLI. I will also tell you the TCP dump, how you can basically do the management plane troubleshooting by using the TCP dump. During this time only, this packet capture time, I will also explain you what are the different daemons we are having into your Palo Alto firewall, because Palo Alto operating system is based on Linux, and Linux have some kind of daemons in a backend. Let's suppose you got a issue. Let's say your commit is failing. In that case, which daemon you need to look, which process you need to look, and how you can restart that process. If you are having some issue with your data plane traffic, how you can restart that data plane. All these basically device level troubleshooting we will cover in that time only, guys. How we will also see how you can do the management plane troubleshooting, then data plane troubleshooting, and where we will see different process, what are the daemons, like log receiver daemon is there, there is a BPN daemon. So I will explain you all these management daemons, guys, in details, how you can restart them, how you can kill them, how you can basically see which basically process is consuming more CPU, more RAM. All these things basically we will see, guys. So this is your course content, guys, and whatever we are having into this particular PDF file, we will cover everything, guys. Okay. So now let me just start with today's topic. So first I will explain you what is lab topology. Then we will see what is the difference between your next generation firewall and legacy firewall, and why we use Palo Alto. And after that we will see SP3 architecture, and we will also cover your packet flow in your Palo Alto. So now let me just quickly explain you my lab topology. So I have just set up this kind of lab, and this lab I have basically set up into my EVNG. This is the basic lab, and that lab I will use for around your 70% practicals. I will be perform into this lab. Okay. So where I am having my Palo Alto firewall. This Palo Alto firewall have a connectivity with my home Wi-Fi, from where I will get the internet, and I'm using 192.168.1.250/24 range IP address, where in all these interfaces of Palo Alto I will configure 250 IP address. I will always go with the symmetry kind of things, guys. I'll do have one more interface, which is my inside interface, where I'm having one Linux machine and one test machine. So this is a Linux test machine, and also this is a Windows test machine. And these particular machine I will use for your testing purpose. They will send the traffic towards the internet, towards DMZ. After, how we can write different rules, different net rules, all these things basically we will write over there. I'll also have a different separate management network, from where I will get the management access of this particular firewall. I do have a DMZ where I am using 10.2.2.0/24 subnet, where I am having two servers. These are the Linux servers, and in class only I will show you how you can make these server, how you can configure these server, how you can configure like HTTP service on this server, how you can configure telnet, how you can configure SSH. All these things basically I will tell you in the class, how you can make this Linux server for this particular services. And after that we will see how, if people are trying to access these server from outside, how you can write your net rules, security rules, all these things, guys. So if you have seen, this is my lab topology which I'm using in EVNG. I also use VMware workstation for creating the similar kind of topology, guys. There is no difference between this topology and my VMware topology, because I have just created this virtual network and these particular things in such a way so I can able to simulate the similar lab over there as well. And this is my VMware, where I am having my Palo Alto firewall. So this is my Palo Alto firewall. I'll tell you how you can install this firewall like this, how you can create different VNets over there. And these are the different VNets. I have a one Windows XP machine as a test PC, Windows Server 2012, where I'm running Active Directory services, and these are the three Linux servers which I will put into my DMZ zone. Okay, so I will also use this particular particular VMware as well for doing your practicals, guys. And all these, whatever firewalls I am having into my VMware, and also whatever firewall I am having into my EVNG, all are having license, guys. Okay. And also apart from this topology, I will also use few other topologies, like in IPsec site to site VPN, I will use this kind of topology, where I have one Palo Alto firewall, another Palo Alto firewall, and one ASA firewall, and we will configure the IPsec site to site VPN. In high availability also, I will use this kind of topology. So let me also show you this high HA topology, guys. This is my HA topology, where I will basically show you your high availability practicals, and I will also share you all these labs, guys. Don't worry on that. You can just need to import these labs into your EVNG, and you don't need to basically set up all these labs. Okay. Now let me just move towards your what is the difference between next generation firewall and legacy firewall, and after that I'll tell you why we basically why you can choose your Palo Alto firewall. So let me just open one notepad file. Okay. So first I will just explain you the legacy firewalls, guys. So if I'll mention here legacy firewall, which means I am talking about the firewalls who can inspect, or we can say control the traffic on the basis of layer 3 information, or on the basis of layer 4 information, as per your OSI model or TCP IP model. If I'll say layer 3 information, which means layer 3 information is your protocols, protocols which basically works on layer 3, and also your source IPs and destination IPs. If I'll talk about the layer 4 information, so at layer 4 what we are having TCP and we are having UDP, right? On this TCP and UDP, they generally having the source port and destination port, right? Which means these legacy firewall can only able to inspect the traffic on the basis of source IP, destination IP, source port, destination port, and protocol numbers. But if I'll take example of Yahoo Messenger, let me just take example of Yahoo Messenger, or maybe example of your torrent. If I take example of these particular application, their IP address is not fixed, because they will change their IP address dynamically, and their port number is also not fixed. Means these two things, this source IPs, which means your layer 3 information, and layer 4 information is not fixed in case of Yahoo Messenger or torrent. Now what you will do, guys, in that case, if now you are having legacy firewall and you want to block the torrent traffic or Yahoo Messenger traffic, now what you will do in that scenario? You need some kind of functionality at layer 7, because you have seen pattern of Yahoo Messenger traffic pattern and the torrent traffic pattern is, they will not change that pattern. That pattern is similar for these applications, right? So the thing is, you need some kind of layer 7 functionality which you can use to basically deny or block the traffic, or we can say control the traffic. For that, you need some kind of functionality which is app ID, or we can say application identification. And this feature is not available into your legacy firewalls, guys. That is the one of the reason. Nowadays, if I'll talk about the legacy firewall, we are having like Cisco ASA. This is also a legacy firewall. Then we are having Juniper firewall, or we can say Juniper SRX. This is also legacy firewall. We are having firewall from HP, firewall from Dell, and also like your Sophos firewall. All these firewall basically comes under the legacy firewalls, because they only able to inspect the traffic on the basis of layer 3 and layer 4 information. They don't support layer 7 features like app ID, like antivirus protection, like URL filtering. They don't have these kind of features, guys. That is the main difference between legacy firewalls and your next generation firewall. So what, let me just basically write few features which is available into your NGFW. If I'll write a ngfw feature, so first feature is your app id. The second feature, which is your url filtering, means what happens in url filtering, basically these firewalls can basically protect the traffic, or they basically provide the functionality to you. You can basically write a rules on that firewall for the urls actually. So let's suppose there's a one test pc. If he's trying to access, let's suppose he's trying to access www.abc.com. Now what you want, to, let's suppose, block this abc.com. So what happens, whatever in http header, there is a one field when they will at http header at layer 7, it is having this domain name in the http request packet. So what, my firewall basically get this domain name from that particular place, and it will check their url filtering rules. If we have set the action block, which means it will block that traffic. So like this, it will basically perform the url filter. It will also support your anti spyware and anti spyware protection and antivirus protection. These features is also you will get only into your next generation firewalls. Then after that, there is a one more feature which is vulnerability protection. Then we are having one more feature which is data protection. So if I'll take example of data protection, which me there is a like HR peoples. HR peoples having your details, like they are having your bank details, right? They are having your social security number details. Let's suppose someone from HR team, if he's trying to sell this information towards the outside, and if that data is going through your firewall able to detect that data. So you can also achieve some basic functionality of data loss prevention by using this Palo Alto firewall, by configuring the data protection profile. After that, there is a one more feature which is DDoS protection. DDoS protection, and also there is a one more protection which is zone protection. You can also configure these DDoS protection and zone protection to basically limit your SYN flood attack, your ICMP flood attack, unnecessary UDP flood attack, anti-spoofing attack. These kind of attacks you can protect by configuring your DDoS and zone protection profiles, guys. There are one more feature which is file policy. File policy feature is also is a part of your next generation firewalls. So, so generally these are the few features which is available into your next generation firewall. After that file policy, there is a one more feature which is user identification. User identification is also a part of your next generation firewall. Then there is a one more feature which is your wildfire. Wildfire is specific for Palo Alto firewall, and this feature in other firewalls like Cisco have a like AMP kind of things. It can provide advanced malware protection kind of things. It's like similar to your wildfire analysis. So Cisco use Talos. It's the same kind of things which we have in Cisco and in Palo Alto. And these kind of features basically you will get into this next generation firewall. And if I'll write a few names of next generation firewall in that list, first firewall is your Palo Alto firewall, guys. Palo Alto is the number one firewall, and he is leading the firewall industry nowadays. As per the Gartner report, Palo Alto is the leader, market leader today. And I have seen there are a multiple firewall, like people are migrating from Cisco ASA to Palo Alto, Checkpoint to Palo Alto, Fortinet to Palo Alto, because Palo Alto is a very feature rich firewall, and it will give you the very good throughput as well, guys. After that, we do have a like Checkpoint firewall. Checkpoint firewall is also a very good firewall. Then we are having Cisco Firepower, or we can say Cisco FTD FMC, which is also comes under your next generation firewall. Then we are having Fortinet firewall. These are the top four firewalls who is leading nowadays firewall industry. But I have seen in 60% market is basically captured by the Palo Alto. And I have seen like so many customers is still using Cisco ASA, but nowadays that migration is happening from Cisco ASA to Palo Alto. So that is the also one more reason we have basically choose here Palo Alto firewall. Okay. Now there is also one more thing I want to show you guys. If you see this particular diagram here, so this particular diagram is for your legacy design, guys. This is a legacy design of your firewall. If I talk about regarding this legacy diagram where we are having one legacy firewall, let's suppose I am just taking all the Cisco product here, guys. So let's suppose this is your ASA firewall. Now, if you need a antivirus protection, anti-spyware protection, or a vulnerability protection, in that case, what you need to purchase one Cisco IPS solution, guys. If you want a protection from vulnerabilities, antivirus, anti-spywares, in that case, you need to purchase one IPS device for that. After, let's say you want a one URL filtering feature. In that case, what you have to purchase one more solution, which is WSA from Cisco, which is your web security appliance. If you need a antivirus protection, or we can say protection from malwares and other stuff, in that case, you need a AMP solution from Cisco. So if you see here, if you are having any kind of legacy design, and on that design if you need a some kind of features, actually let's say you need a URL filtering feature, you need a protection from malwares, file protection, you need a antivirus, anti-spyware protection. So what you are doing, you are just purchasing these devices and you are just putting these devices, right? So whenever you will purchase these devices, there is a some cost involved, right? For that you have to pay the extra cost to the organization, to the vendors, and also you need to pay the cost for license, and you need a some kind of network engineers who can basically manage all these devices, because we are adding these devices inline, right? So what happens, Cisco ASA process the packet, it will take some time in processing. IPS will take some time in processing. AMP will take some time in processing, and WSA also takes some time in basically processing. So there is some kind of unnecessary network delay is also occurred. Okay, but if we talk about your Palo Alto firewall provide all these feature into one box. Palo Alto is a like one box solution for all these particular features. That is the also one more reason, guys, Palo Alto become very popular. Okay, and as I have mentioned, if you guys remember, and I think everyone is aware about that, stateful inspection, right? So this stateful inspection basically developed in 1993. Okay, and the person who has developed this stateful inspection, he is the developer of Palo Alto as well, guys. Just remember, and his name is Nirzu. So he had developed this particular stateful inspection while he is working as a tech engineer in Checkpoint. So the thing is, and when he has come with this Palo Alto firewall in 2005, Palo Alto is the first firewall who supports this app ID feature. That is the also one more reason, because that feature is not there in any other vendors. That is also one more reason Palo Alto become very popular, guys. Okay, so this is the something which regards to your next generation firewall and legacy firewall, and why we have choose here Palo Alto firewall, because of its architecture, its features. It is a feature rich firewall. Okay, now let me also discuss what is this SP3 architecture, because whenever Palo Alto engineers or a sales guy, whenever they will do the POC and other stuff, they will use this SP3 architect terminology in front of customer to basically pitch in the solution. So you also need to understand this architecture, guys, and how it is differ from the normal firewall functionality or normal firewall architecture. So for that I will take a help of one of the image, guys, for that. Okay, so in SP3 architecture, what happens, guys, whenever my Palo Alto firewall receives a packet, what it will do, it will receive a packet, right? So what it will receive that packet, and it will put this packet into ingress process, and what it will do, it will just create a 3 replica of that packet. Means it will create a 3 copies of that packet, and it will send one copy from your networking engine, one copy through your app ID, then user ID, then content ID, and one copy through your policy engine. And all these engines is basically working parallelly, guys. And SP3 is the full definition of SP3 is single pass software and parallel processing hardware. Single pass software means this networking engine, app ID, user ID, content ID engine, and policy engine. These three engines basically processing the packet in parallel way, in single pass only. That is your single pass software. So the thing is, now whenever that packet go to into networking engine, what happens? Networking engine is responsible for your routing lookup, your net lookup, your quality of service, your MAC lookup, your ARP lookup. All these things basically done by your networking engine, or we can say network processor. App ID engine is responsible for identifying your application. User ID responsible for the activities of user ID agent, guys, or we can say user identification. Then content ID is responsible for the for your URL filtering, antivirus, anti-spyware, vulnerabilities. All these things which comes under your content inspection. Okay. And policy engine basically responsible for matching the security policies which you will configure in your firewall. Okay. And all these three things happening parallelly, guys. Why that parallel operation is possible? Because Palo Alto have divided its architecture into two parts: control plane and data plane. And that data plane they have further divided into three another planes: networking, security, and content. And all these networking, security, and content, they are having dedicated RAM and CPU, guys. They are having dedicated RAM and CPU. So that is the main one of the reason they can able to basically works in parallel way, because they don't have any kind of resource dependency, right? But in other file, what happened? Let's suppose someone have launched the attack into your routing table. So your routing table may consume all your RAM and CPU. In that case, other engine maybe will not able to function properly. But in case of Palo Alto, because all these particular processor having dedicated RAM and CPU, so they don't, so that's why they can able to operate parallelly. One more benefit you will get by dividing this control plane and data plane into two parts. Let's suppose someone have launched DDoS attack into your data plane, which means your data plane is choked now. What you will do now? But your control plane is safe, because control plane is also having dedicated RAM and CPU, dedicated resources. You can log in into your control plane and just do the configuration. You can restart your data plane if you want. These kind of activity also you can perform. So if in one of your plane, if someone has launched the DDoS attacks, your basically other plane will not affect actually. Okay. And your control plane is responsible for config management, logging, and reporting. Now there is also one more benefit I have seen. Let's suppose your commit is failing, or maybe logging is not happening. What you will do in that case? You can just restart your control plane only. You don't need to restart the entire firewall. What happens in other firewall? Let's suppose there's some issues. What we will do generally, we will just restart the firewall side, or we will reload the firewall. But in case of Palo Alto, you will get that kind of functionality. If your data plane is not performing well, what you can just restart the data plane only. You don't need to restart your entire box. These kind of things also basically you will get due to this kind of architecture, guys. That is the benefit you will basically get in basically SP3 architecture. And then this is your SP3 architecture. And also because the thing is, all these engines are working together, right, in parallel way. So the thing is, let's suppose Pulse engine take 1 second in processing the packet, app ID, these engines take 1 second in processing the packet, and networking engine take 1 second in processing the packet. So total in 1 second only they will complete this operation. But in other firewalls, they need a 3 second. That is also one more reason, like Palo Alto throughput is 3 times higher than the normal firewall. That is also one of the terminology used by the Palo Alto sales team, or we can say marketing team. Okay. If I'll come back to this particular topology, guys, let me just open this. So this is the like multi-pass architecture, because Palo Alto supports single pass architecture, and this is your multi-pass architecture because it's a legacy design, right? In that design, first your firewall will basically process the packet. After that, that packet go for your URL filtering. Then packet go for IPS device. Then packet go for antivirus. And also, if in Cisco ASA, right? In Cisco ASA, whenever you will install these modules, this firepower module, or we can say IPS module or CX module, whenever you will install these modules, your operation happen this way only. First, your firewall handle the traffic, then it will forward the traffic for this module, then that module will handle. That is so, because the thing is firewall takes some time, then this Purdue engine also takes some time, so that is the unnecessary delay happens. Okay, so that is, there is a in these particular firewall there is a some delay in the processing, or we can say processing delay is there. Okay, so this is, guys, your SP3 architecture. Now let me also cover your last topic, which is packet flow. I will not explain you in-depth thing in packet flow, guys. I will give you the basic overview, because in-depth packet flow I'll generally cover into your troubleshooting class. Okay, but I'll give you the basic overview of this particular packet flow. So what I can do, let me use this particular top. I will just design one small topology here, and I'll tell you the packet flow of Palo Alto, guys. So here I am having my Palo Alto firewall. Here I am having one PC, and here I am having one server. This PC having IP address 10.1.1.100, Palo Alto having IP address 10.1.1.250. This server having IP address which is 200.1.1.100, and this particular place having IP address 250. 200.1.1.250, like that. This is, let's so this is your inside zone, and this is your outside zone. Just take example of that. Okay. On this server, what happens? There is a one file is available. That file size is 2 GB. 2 GB of file is there. Now this particular PC wants to download this particular file, and let's say this is a web server which is hosted on TCP port number 80. This is a web server. So what this PC wants to do, what it will do? It will just send one HTTP request over this server, right? On that request, what is the content? It will put the source IP address, which is 10.1.1.100, destination IP address, which is 200.1.1.100. Source ports, it will put the random port number, right? So random port, let's say 1234, and destination port, which is port number 80, and protocol, it will use the IP protocol. Okay, or protocol number is 6 in case of TCP, because web server generally runs on TCP, right? So this is the basically information which it will. So now my Palo Alto, when my Palo Alto receive this packet, so what it will do? It will just put this packet into the state which is your ingress state. Because my Palo Alto receiving this packet into this interface, which is Ethernet 1/2, and this is Ethernet 1/1, right? So what, when it will receive this packet, what it will do? It will first increase the interface counter by 1. It will just increase the interface counter by 1. Sometime what happens, my Palo Alto may receive a fragmented packet. So what it will do? It will do the IP reassembly in case of fragmented packet. Because this particular packet basically use the HTTP, right, application. So the thing is, now it will all, my Palo Alto 5 also basically runs the CRC check. CRC check at layer 2, and in TCP header also we are having checksum value, right? It will run this checksum value to just get the header errors, if there is any errors available in the header, or header is formed properly or not. it will basically check these particular things. Okay, and when after checking these things, what my Palo Alto do, it will extract the layer 2 information, layer 3 information, and layer 4 information. And by looking into that information, what it will do, it will get to know the ingress zone, what is the ingress zone, and what is the MAC address of this particular interface, right? It will just get this information, and after that it will basically send this packet for the BPN lookup, or for the BPN checks into the BPN engine. So sometime what happens, let's suppose my firewall is receiving the BPN traffic for SSL BPN or IPsec BPN. What in that case? In that case needs to do the decryption, right? It need to do the decryption, because after decryption only it will get the actual IP header. So let's suppose it will send that packet for BPN, decryption happens, and after that again it will forward the same packet for the ingress state for this actual IP header. Let's say this is not a BPN traffic. Now it will forward this packet for the session table. So it will check, it will do the session lookup, because this is a first packet in this flow, right? So what happens, there is no session. So after that, what, because session is not found into the session table, so my firewall now forward this packet for the session setup state. Session setup state. In session setup state, what, first your routing lookup happens. So when my firewall send this packet into session setup state, first it will do the lookup on policy based forwarding if we have configured. After it will do the lookup on routing table, and by looking into that routing table he will get to know the exit interface of this, but for this particular packet. When routing lookup complete, will do the lookup on net table, or we can see into net policies. In net policy there are two conditions. Let's suppose this particular traffic is for source net. In case of source net, what, it will just evaluate the rule, and it will just move for the next check, which is your security policy check. Let's suppose this traffic is for the destination net. In that case, what happen, because actual destination will change, right? So it will do the routing lookup one more time for the translated destination, or for that particular IP address. And now it will go for your security policies lookup. And if our security policy is allowing that traffic, in that case what happens, now my firewall basically create the session, and it will basically update the session information to the session table along with the timers, guys. Okay, and after that what happens, when session table creation is happening, so when it will do the net lookup, here it will just evaluate the net rule, guys. Just remember what it will do, it will just evaluate the net rule. And after that, when it will install the session to the session table, and after what, it will just do the translation. Actual net translation happens after the session table, guys. Okay, and so net translation happens. Now it will send that packet for the decryption policy. If we have configured the SSL decryption, so it will send that packet for the SSL decryption. And if decryption alive, then my firewall will decrypt the traffic, and it will now forward this date traffic for the app identification, which is through the app ID engine, where app identification happens. They are the multiple ways which is used by the Palo Alto to identify the application. We will discuss all of them. After app ID, basically that packet go for your content inspection, where your URL filtering, anti-spyware, antivirus, your file policies, all these things basically comes in a picture, and they will basically, this particular packet is scans against the threats and malwares. And after that, basically my firewall send that packet. So when that content identification is completed, again it will do the re-encrypt. So here it will do the decryption by using SSL policy. Now here it will do the re-encryption by using this SSL policy. And later on it will just put this packet into the egress process, where your L3 lookup happens, L2 lookup happens. If you have configured any kind of quality of service, then this quality of service policy is applied over there. Let's suppose if you are basically this traffic is for the BPN, then Here VPN encryption happens. All these things basically perform into your egress process, and after that my firewall just forward this traffic through the exit interface. This L2 lookup, which is ARP lookup, is also done by your egress process level only. This is the basic packet flow, guys, and I will cover in details when we will discuss the troubleshooting class. Okay. So these are the things which I want to cover into this particular demo, guys. If you have any questions, you can let us know. So now I am just stopping the recording and I am give you the mute permission to all.